Alright, YouTube. In this second series of JavaScript interview question, we are going to see how to use the split function. Now we'll pass the email, and you'll see the output will be the protected email address. If I type some other name and you see the name, now the first one has 7 letters and the second one has 5 letters. Now if I pass the letter with only 5, now we are getting the output as in 2 letter. We'll be using the split and the substring function over here, and I guess you understood what I meant by the word letter. Fine. Now let's get the element input, and let's store the element to a variable called input. Let me do the same for the button. Get the element button and store it into a variable called button. And we know we would be adding a click listener. Now in this case we won't be adding the click listener. Fine, let's add it. We want the click listener and then the function. So when I click on it, what the click should do. So when I click on it, I want the input field value to be displayed on the console. Not on the console, let me store it into a variable, and we'll console the message the variable. Fine. Now we know this is a value, input field value, and I want the input field value to be splitted on @ even we know in the previous video we have seen what the split function does. If we don't pass anything, each letter is considered as a string. So now I want the letter to be splitted, I want the word to be splitted on @ so before and after. So that means before and before @ and after @ I want the first part, so we can access the, let me save this to a variable as the splitted. So to access the first part, I can call the index. To access the second one, I can call the index 1 and store it into a variable called second part. We'll keep the second part as it is, but we'll apply the logic on the first part to show you the first part. And let me call the second part. So the string will be splitted on the @ the @ won't be displayed. To make it display on the same line, you can do like this by concatenating. Again, the @ won't be visible because we are splitting on the @. If you want, you have to put the @. Let's add @ and we need dot before that. So almost done. Now we want the first part of the string to have some logic. So let's store the first part logic to a variable called first part modified. So let me create a variable, and this variable will simply have the first part, and previously we have used slice. Now we'll use the substring starting from 0 and end till the first part length. So the whole string will be visible starting from 0 and end till the length of the string. That means whole string. We don't want the whole string, we want the average of the whole string. To get the average, we'll be using the length of the first part divided by 2, and we'll use the variable to subtract on the substring. Now we'll get the average, and that's the logic for this question. and that's working. Now let's get into the second question, which is the seventh question of this series. We would be using the three functions: caret, uppercase. We need to capitalize the first letter of the sentence. So this is a sentence. I'm passing all in small case, and if you see, it's this has been converted to capital T, and S has been converted to capital S. And slice, we already know, we have seen what slice does. So we are adding a property on click on the button. So let's define this function. Previously we have used listener, now we are using the function. We are defining the function, and when I click on the function, when I click on the button, I want this function to get triggered, and this function will simply get the input value and store it into a variable called sentence. And I want the sentence, so this is a sentence, the first letter. To get the first letter, I will be using the caret. We have already seen in the previous tutorial what the caret does. It will get the first letter, and I want the first letter to be converted to uppercase, and then I want to use, so let me till now let me show you what it does. You'll get the sentence from the input field, and you'll get the first letter, and the first letter to be converted to the, it's not working, capital C will come on the uppercase. Fine, the first letter will be converted and displayed to uppercase. That's working. Now we want the other text. To get the other values, we'll use the slice. We have already seen we have passed two values to the slice, eh, starting from 0 until the length, to till the length where we want as a second parameter. Now let's get the rest of the letter. To get the rest of the letter, we'll use slice, and we'll pass simply 0. By passing simply 0, what we'll get is we'll get the whole string. So if you see, by passing the string slice 0, you're getting the whole string. There's an error, let me see why. We have to use sentence dot slice. We're getting the whole string, but we don't want the whole string, we just have to skip the first one. So for that, I'll pass the index 1. So now the first letter is converted to capital, and then we are getting the rest of the string using the slice. This is another JavaScript interview question, and this is question number 8. If I type a letter, I want this letter to be repeated twice. If I type this letter and I want this letter to be repeated 5 times, and again the same way, I want this letter to be repeated 3 times. And this can be done with the help of these three functions in JavaScript. So let me go through the HTML. We have two input field and one button, and two input field is identified with the ID, and one button which has a on click property. Let's get this button. Previously we have used get element by ID. Now we are using query selector, and I am passing the hash to it. Hash refers to the ID. Let's define this function. When I click on it, this function will get triggered, and I want the input field value. With the help of property, we have already seen where this value is coming from in the previous tutorial. Where the value property is coming from. Most of us know what is value, and we don't know where the value is coming from. To know it, look at the first video which I have already covered. Fine. Now let me we we have already seen the input field will always return the string. I have shown you in the first tutorial. Now we want the string to be converted to array. This is what we do with the help of parse it. Now if the input field value is greater than 0, then we want to create an array. I have created an array, and this array will have the length of the input field which we have passed, and I want to join the string value. So that means I want to create an array. The length of the array is passed according to the name, according to the input field number we have passed, and then the array's value will be populated with this first input field. So I want the letter to be repeated thrice. I want the letter to be repeated thrice again, and that's working. Now let's get into another JavaScript interview question. Insert a string within a specific position. So we are passing a sentence, and we want to pass a simple word inside a sentence at 18th position. So this is a sentence I'm passing, and on the 18th position I need to pass the JavaScript. So the sentence is on what we need to pass. We need to pass, and the letter and the on the position is 18th. So if I insert it, you can see that's working. Fine. To identify each of them, I have used ID. Now let's get the element, each element using query selector. Hash simply refers to the ID and will store it into a variable. We need it thrice because we have 3 input field. The first one is for the sentence, the second one is for the position where we want to pass, and the third one is simply the word which we want to pass on the sentence. We will be getting the value of the input field using the property dot value. Now let's, with some validation, if the position is less than 0, then make the insert position value as a 0. If I pass -1, I want the position to be 0, or else if again we need to pass if statement. If the word we are passing is null, or the length, we have already seen where the length is coming from, just like the value. If the length is equal to 0, length of the string is equal to 0, then we want the insert word to be nothing. Nothing in the sense, this is how we pass nothing. So instead of giving complex name, we will use the same name. Now let's add some logic. Get the sentence which is in this string value, and we'll be getting the new string. So this is the string sentence, and using the slice starting from 0, and it should end till the number we have passed. So if I show you the message on the console, you'll get a clear understanding. Just extract the letters till 18. So starting from 0 until 18, till 18 where the sum ends, and I just want one the 5 letters. It's not letter, it is index starting from 0. And now the rest of the letter, we have already seen the rest of the letter. To get the rest of the letter, we'll use, now if you see, starting from 18th letter, I need, now starting from 18th, it is skipping the 18th letter and starting from exercise. I'm referring again letter, it's not letter, it is index, sorry for that. and in between I need that word. If the word is blank, we'll get the blank. If we get some value, we'll get the value. To skip the spaces, I'm using the trim function, which we have already covered. On the 18th position, I need to add the word JavaScript, and you see there is a space. We need to add space over here. Not on both sides, but on the right side is necessary to add space. You can see there is some extra space on left side, but right side it's okay. Now that's perfectly added. On the 18th index we are getting the. Now this is another JavaScript question. We need to hide the email address.